Hey y'all, PJ Mama here. We are going to make our very first loaf of bread today. You need a container to mix your dough in and let it rest. You need your active bubbly starter. You need some flour. I just use all-purpose unbleached. And you need some water, non-chlorinated. So let's go. The first thing you're gonna do is you need your scale. I forgot to tell you the scale. Turn it on. Let's see, can you guys see that good? Move it a little closer. All right, so now we got our bowl, and then you're gonna zero it out. The first thing I'm gonna put in is our water. And you need 340 grams of room temperature water, not hot, not cold, just, you know, room temperature. Nothing special about the temp on the water. So let's get it to 340. If you live in a dry climate, I am in the South. If you live in a dry climate, you're gonna wanna go up to your water. You can go anywhere up to 389. If you're super dry, like Vegas, or even Utah and Arizona, go all the way up to the 389. If you're somewhere in between that, like Missouri, I'd probably start at about 360, 365. Down here in Mississippi, Florida, you're going to be at 340. Whoops. And I just went over. And I'm real picky about my water because the dough sucks all the water out of the air and it gets so sloppy. So I make sure to measure my water to the T at 340 grams. So like I said, anywhere from 340 to 389 is where you're gonna wanna be. You decide by which state and the humidity that day. It's not imperative. Start it in one place and move from there. You know, don't get hung up on it. Now we're gonna get our starter. She was fed this morning. She's been used already. This will be my 4th use. That's why she looks like this. She was grown all the way up to here today. She started down here. So you're just gonna dump it in. We gotta re-zero our scale. And you're gonna want 227 grams of active bubbly starter. I just dump her in. Let me get us a clean spatula because this one I just dumped on the floor. And I'm gonna need it because my jar is almost empty. Come on. Just scoop it in there. Got 100. I'm scooping at the bottom. Yes, this is a huge jar, by the way. Normally you're just gonna have, you know, your quart size ball jar. That's perfect. Like I said, this will be my 5th loaf today. So I had to start out with a huge amount of active starter. You want 227 grams for this loaf. If you go over, that's fine, but don't go under. You're gonna want the full 227. Oops, there you go. And then look in here. See how it looks? It's kind of all dried out, and I'll show you what we're gonna do with that here in just a minute. For now, I'm just gonna put the lid back on it so we don't get dog hair or gnats or anything from the South all up in my starter. And if you notice, my starter is floating. Like it dropped in and now it's coming back up. That means it's ready to go. You're good to go. It's floating. It doesn't have to float. It's not a foolproof test. But if you get it to float, you know you're golden. But like I said, it's not a foolproof test. So don't make that your ride or die kind of a thing. All right, so for now for flour, you want 602 grams of flour. I use all-purpose. I'm cheap. I don't like to buy all the other kind. Unless I'm making a specific one, then I'll use a specific flour. Like if I'm making a wheat loaf or a rye loaf, then of course I'm going to use that kind of flour. So 602 grams. I should have got a bigger scoop, but it's all right. We're at 359. I don't know if you can see it. This might be in your way. Move it over here to the side. 508, 558, and then I'm over by 2, and I am very picky about it, so I want it to be as close as I can to the 602. So now I'm at 599, and to me that's perfect. Put my lid back on. So far we have 602 grams of flour, 340 grams of water, and 227 grams of active starter. Now here's the part that's optional for you guys. If you like your salt, add it. If you're not a big salt person, leave it out. 99% of the time I leave it out, but I am gonna add a little bit just because this one is gonna be a plain and the other two are gonna be flavored. So we're just gonna do a little bit. You want 10 grams of salt in your dough. And again, I'm not doing 10 grams, I'm just giving it a little pinch of salt. So it'll complement the flavors I'm making today. So we got our dough. Let's clean off our scale because I was extremely sloppy with that. Turn it off because you're done with it and get it out of your way. So there we go. We got all of our stuff. This little fancy thing is called a dough whisk. I really don't understand the point of it. I truly prefer to use my rubber spatula until it gets to the point I can use my hand. Because to me, this is just a mess. But if you want to go get yourself one, then go ahead. It's called a dough whisk. We're going to just stir it up. You can use your hand, you can use your dough whisk, you can use rubber spatula, you can use your KitchenAid. I really like using the KitchenAid, don't get me wrong. It saves your muscles and strength. But you just use your paddle attachment. You're gonna mix it all up and it takes, I don't even think it takes 2 minutes because you don't wanna overmix it. We're just getting the flour to incorporate. That's it. See what I'm saying? This to me is a pain. But I wanted to show you guys so you could come up with it on your own. Trying to get all the dough off of it because that's all my good stuff. Throwing that in the sink. I'm gonna wet my hand. And then I'm using my hand to stir it up a little bit better to get more of that flour at the bottom incorporated. Just kind of squeezing and twisting to get that flour, that loose flour. See it down there? Get it incorporated into my dough. That's all I'm trying to do right now. Okay, so now we got that. This is what they call a shaggy dough. See how it's not pretty? It's just kind of there. There's a really fancy word that culinary experts love to use, and I can't really pronounce it. It's like autoslavin, I don't know. Here in the South, we just call it a rest period. So we're gonna let the dough rest. You give it 20 to 30 minutes just for all that water and flour to get fully incorporated. Put your lid back on it. And set it aside. Now, let me rinse my hand off a minute. Just take a second here. I'm going to show you what to do with your starter. While we've got the timer set for the rest period. I do mine 30 minutes because I'm usually got 500 things going on. All right, so our starter. There's not usually much left in your jar. I get it down to where I have hardly none left. I'll have 5 to 10 grams left over because I hate discard. To me, it's a waste. I waste my flour. But I'm gonna just put all of this into here and back into my normal jar. Scrape it all in there. See, when you have too big of a jar, it's just really cumbersome, people. We don't need to do that to ourselves. There's some days where you want to make sure you're literally getting every chunk of starter out because, like I said, I will bring it down where there's hardly anything left in my jar. And remember, this is reusable. You use it over and over and over. It's infinite amount of loaves, bread. So you just want to never use it all completely. Okay. Oh, there's a big chunk I want to grab. All right. So now I've got my starter jar that probably looks a lot like yours. And we just made our loaf of bread. So I'm going to put my, yes, my hand got gross because the jar is so big. Like I said, when we use our quart jars, we don't have that problem. So this is what you do. You just put your rubber band back. It doesn't matter where it's at, just put it on there. What does matter is you have to decide if you're going to bake again tomorrow or if you're going to store it away. I always just leave mine out on, ooh, this is gross. Let's get a clean one. Here, we'll use a paper towel. I always just leave mine out on the counter because I know I'm going to bake again. There you go. Now you just set her on the counter and you leave her alone for a while. And we're waiting for our dough to continue its rest period and we'll be right back.